Here we go. And this is 91.3 FM WCUW in Worcester, Massachusetts. Tonight with a recorded interview with Mike Mayo. Mike was the former host of the Movie Lounge, a great syndicated radio show that talked primarily about everything to do with movies. And he has a new book out recently that covers almost every horror film that has come out from beginning of time till about 2012. Thank you for coming on the show with us, Mike.
Thanks for inviting me, Chris. Glad to be here.
This new horror book is kind of like an updated version of your Video Hound horror guide that came out in 1998, correct?
Exactly. That book came out in '98. Reviewed 999 movies, and we decided that so many things had been made in the 15 years since that what we would do would go back and take kind of the core reviews from the first book and then combine them with the most important films that had been made in the last 15 years and to pick up some of the older ones from the 50s that we'd missed in the first book and try to get a better book that really kind of covers the horror film from about 1910 until 2012. The first movie we cover in there is the Edison Frankenstein, the silent film, and then all the way up to the new ones. And some people have criticized some of the things that I chose to put in and some of the things I left out, but I'm comfortable with the ones that I put in. I thought to get a representative look at the horror film, I tried to get everything in, and that included all of the just incredible number of sequels and remakes that have been done in the past 15 years. That was, to me, the most depressing part of the book, was to realize how much in recent years all we're doing is retreading the ground that's already been covered, as opposed to really trying to make new movies.
Here's a pretty roundabout question. We'll start with, what is your favorite horror movie?
Oh boy, now that is, I guess if it came right down to it, it would either be Alien or Halloween.
Okay.
Just because of the time that I saw them, the effect that they had on me, and I really think it's almost more important the time you see a movie in your life than the quality of the film itself. If you were to be at the right age and see Friday the 13th Part 4, it could really have an incredible impact on you. Whereas if you're lucky enough to see something like Halloween or Alien at the right age, when it has, I think you're being moved by a much better film than Friday the 13th Part 4. There have just been so many things that as I said before, have just gone over the ground that's already been covered. That's the safe thing for Hollywood producers to do now. That's why we see all of the remakes and reboots and everything else that we've done, the great movies from the 70s and 80s. Instead of letting the younger filmmakers go with their own ideas and trying to create new forms, which is what the horror film has always really thrived on.
What would you say is your most vilest horror movie? It's just outright disgusting, stupid, and no one should ever watch it.
Oh boy, now that is just such a huge thing. I guess I would say one of the probably the middle to late Saw movies. The first Saw movie, I thought, really had some interesting stuff going on, even though it was, just essentially redoing a lot of the stuff from 7. But still, it was, the whole Grand Guignol horror thing of just, kind of showing all of this nasty stuff and really wallowing in it. But then, as that series went on, it just became so repetitive, and I thought it really kind of lost what originality it had, and in its place we just got this violence for its own sake, and not very realistic or effective violence. For violence to mean anything in a horror movie or any other kind of movie, you have to have some emotional investment in the character who is involved in the violence. And to me, with particularly the later movies in all of these series, you lose that completely. I I might also mention since I'm really dumping on all of the remakes, things like the Last House on the Left, the remake of the Last House on the Left, where the original really had some power to it. The remake, while it was in some ways much more violent and certainly more polished in a lot of ways, really kind of chickened out and just became a conventional Hollywood movie instead of the really groundbreaking horror in a different kind of way that we'd never seen that the original Last House on the Left was.
What's one of the things you help people to take away from your book compared to other movie guide books? I love just the absolute wealth of knowledge that you put into it and the massive amount of films that you put into it all the way up till, again, like last year. It's a great tome to just grab and flip to right away instead of having to hunt it down on the internet.
Yeah, my point with the book, and I was really aiming the book at younger viewers who are, just discovering the horror films, and to try to give them an idea of what's out there, because I think so many young viewers really don't know anything but the recent horror movies. I know you have, as I have, really taken to task the Twilight movies. They are really stupid. They are not true horror movies, even though they are built on the conventions of horror. But I hope that there are some kids who have seen the Twilight movies and then thought, hey, there's something else going on here. I would like to know more about horror, and I hope they will be looking at this book and the first one to find out what else is there and what the really good horror movies are. I mean, Twilight that's doing something else completely. But some kids are going to see that, and that's going to be their first exposure to the whole ideas of vampires and werewolves and what they can be on the screen. And if they take a look at this book, maybe they will be able to thumb through it, find some other things that will be much more challenging to them. I mean, I really hope that somebody, say, who saw the Twilight movies and got interested in vampires would then go out and stumble upon or seek out and find Let the Right One In. Just, a wonderful movie, or 30 Days of Night, something like that. These are the really good vampire movies that have something to say, and I think really are meant for the younger viewers who haven't seen too many of these kinds of films.
I just, again, as I keep saying, the massive amount of wealth in your book is astonishing. And have you seen every single film in your book?
Oh yes. Now, remember, every DVD player and VCR has a fast forward button. And I cannot tell you that I have watched yes, I have watched every second, but not in real time. When some of these movies just get so bad, I hit the fast forward button. But yes, I have seen every frame of every film that is reviewed in these books. It would be unfair of me to try to call myself any kind of expert and to comment on them if I hadn't seen them, and that really bothers me. I think a lot of people who write about movies, I think, tend to take sort of an easy way out. You really have to watch the films and see what's there. Talking about this kind of thing, I remember the late Roger Ebert would do frame-by-frame analysis of films like Citizen Kane and Pulp Fiction with classes where they would meet for days on end and literally, just kind of look at each frame of the film and talk about what was in there. All the movies in my books certainly don't deserve that, but some of them deserve to be seen more than once. Just to pick an example right off the top of my head, take another look at Silence of the Lambs, and you will be astonished at what a good, polished film that is. How it just, on any way you choose to look at how films are put together, that is just a terrific movie in terms of the characters involving you in the story, the way it's structured, the polish of it. That's just a wonderful movie. And every time I look at it, I see something that I've missed before that just knocks me out. Wow, this is so good. It's just a terrific movie. And as other people have said, I'm always hoping that I'm going to find another one sometime.
Now, of course, I keep mentioning your former syndicated television show, The Movie Lounge. When did that start? And tell us a little bit of the history about it for anyone not familiar with it, since it's not on the air anymore. A lot of people might not know what I'm referring to.
Well, it started off as the movie show on radio, and originally it had 3 hosts, and I came on occasionally as a guest for reasons that I'm not going to go into because they involve people, and I don't know everything behind it. The personnel changed, and then I became a regular host, and then finally I became kind of the co-host with Max Weiss, and we did it for several years. The show changed ownership, and then it became Max and Mike on the movies for a couple of years. And I guess we ran from about 1999 to 2007, something like that. I'm really not clear on the date. We were on live 2 hours, live in some markets, recorded in others. Came on every Saturday afternoon, talked about movies, took calls from our listeners. It was kind of the most fun I ever had that I really got paid to do. It was just such a wonderful job to be asked to go on there to talk about new movies and old movies and have people call in and tell you their favorites and just to every week that I did that show, something about it surprised me. That people would call in with ideas that I hadn't thought of, or they would challenge me about something I'd said, and it was just the thrill of doing it live, knowing that, being the light goes on, the microphone's on, and you're out there, and there are people listening to you, and they want to talk about what you're talking about. Boy, that's just about as much fun as it gets to be.
Where do you see the horror industry right now? I mean, we've had a lot of bad hits, I don't know why I say hits, but I gotta call them something. We've had a lot of bad movies the last couple of years, and this year, last year, we were gradually seen to be getting more interesting films that aren't just complete and utter suckfests. I mean, I'm looking forward to The Purge and You're Next, and the Evil Dead remake I thought was freaking fantastic. But why is horror TV doing better than horror movies?
That's a really interesting question, and I think it simply reflects what's happening in the industry as a whole. I would say that the most interesting work of horror that I have seen in the past couple of years was the first season of American Horror Story. The 13 episodes that told one story right there. And so when they did the second season, they used some of the same actors, but in completely different roles. So what you had there was, long-form television, but telling a single story that was, complete unto itself right there. I thought that was just, more fun than almost anything I'd seen in a theater. What we've seen in theaters, I think, is films that are driven by the special effects. It's not so much what the writers can come up with as to what the computer guys can dream up. We want a monster that turns into a door, and then into a 57 Chevy, and then into a vampire with bloody fangs. Sure, we can do that. Whether that's really scary or not, or whether that has anything important to do with the story or not, because we can do that, we do it. I guess you could say that I was sort of describing the Transformers movies there, and I guess I was, which aren't really horror, but that's the mindset I think that is kind of driving the feature film business today. Whereas in something like American Horror Story, it's much more character driven, based on a lot of true crime stuff, with just this really intricate plot, but revolving around a set of really complicated, flawed characters who were involved in really strange situations. To me, that just, it was the most involving thing I've seen, much more so than any of the theatrical stuff.
Definitely, and of course they're returning the same pretty much cast of actors for American Horror Story Season 3. I think it's called Coven or Witches.
Yes, and I I didn't get to see the second season, so I'm really looking forward to doing a whole binge viewing thing on that to catch up. And I have heard that it was as good as the first, but I really thought the first one was just terrific.
Absolutely. What are you working on next coming up, Mike? And do you do conventions, or are you traveling with the book at all?
No, I haven't done any of that. I probably should, but that's just kind of a whole world I haven't gotten into. Part of that is because between the time I finished the book and the time it was published, I moved from New Jersey to North Carolina, which kind of takes up your whole life when you're doing something like that. So the idea of kind of traveling to conventions is just something I haven't done. I also write fiction. I have a novel out now called Jimmy the Stick, a crime novel, and I'm working on a sequel to it too. I don't know if we're going to do anything more with the horror show stuff. I hope we do. I would really like to, but I really can't say anything about that right now.
Hold on, the recorder just kind of paused real quickly. I just wanted to get it started right back up again. So this part will probably be just probably be edited out. All right, here we go. Do you have a blog, website, or anything like that?
Yeah, MikeOnMovies.com, and there is a new one coming up. That is MikeOnMovies.com is something that I kind of put together myself. It has a very homemade look to it. It is perhaps one of the most boring websites in the world. But the new one is kind of in beta testing phase right now. It is mike-mayo.com, and it's going to be really cool. I've been working with a guy who really knows what he's doing, and we're making a really cool thing of it. And the Horror Show Guide is part of it, and I'm really, really happy with what it's becoming.
So in 2000, let's say like 2025, we could probably see the next updated book.
Yeah, we'll find another 300 or 400 movies, between now and then. That's a scary thought. Jeez, I can't imagine myself that far into the future. But
how old will you be, Mike?
People will still be watching horror movies then, and I'll be still writing about them, I think.
How old will you be by then, Mike?
I'm 65 right now.
You don't sound like you're 65. You sound really young, man.
Well, thank you.
Hey, have you ever read a book called The Movie Club by chance? It's a great story about a father who takes his son out of high school because he's just not really great in high school, but he tells him that as long as you get a job and don't do drugs, I'm gonna do your education through films every day of your life. And it's based on a true story.
Didn't that one of the guys who was on Mystery Science Theater 3000? Who did that?
Is it?
I think it's him and his son. Yeah, I know of it, but I haven't read it. I'm almost positive that I'm right about that.
Wait, who?
They were watching one a day or something like that.
Who? What?
I don't know that for sure.
Mike, is it Mike, Joel, Kevin, Trace, Frank? Who?
The guys from Mystery Science Theater 3000.
No, I understand that, but which actor from MST3K?
I don't know. I can't remember.
Oh, jeez, I have the book. I should read. I'll do some research. I didn't know that. I mean, he makes no. I mean, maybe I missed that part, but I could have sworn I don't remember him making any mention to saying, "Oh, and I was on this tiny little cable show with robot puppets, and we're gawking at movies for 2 hours."
Well, okay, edit this out if I'm wrong about this, and it makes you a complete idiot of myself. It wouldn't be the first time.
Okay.
But I'm saying this right off the top of my head, and I'm not positive about it at all.
Okay, that's fine. I'll do some research and I'll edit this part out. Don't worry. But hey, Mike, it was great having you come on the show, and I really do appreciate it. I mean, again, the movie lounge, when I first discovered that, when I was, when I had my own set of wheels, when I was like 20-something years old in the year 2000, it was like the only reason I would stay after I got home, I wouldn't go directly in the house because the damn radio, and this is before, you could listen to radio on the computer, but the damn radio signal wouldn't get into the house very well, so I had to stay in my car until the entire show was over listening to your show, and I loved it.
Oh man, thank you so much. That means so much to me because, like I say, we had so much fun doing that show. It was one of those things we couldn't believe they paid us to do it every week, and to know that there are still people out there who remember, who enjoyed it as much as we did, because that's what we were trying to do every week. We just, wanted to be talking to our fellow fans, and it really was. We were doing the whole theater of the mind thing, the movie lounge, but it really was like just kind of being in a bar, talking to your friends about the movies that you liked and hated and wanted to make fun of and wanted to praise. And so it's just, man, it's so great to have you bring that back to me. I really appreciate it. Thanks a lot.
Dude, it was one of the reasons why I decided to come up to WCW and say, hey, I have this idea for a show that I think would work based on the type of demographic here in Worcester, because we have our own horror convention here called Rock and Shock, and I was just like, it would work, a movie-themed radio show that deals in horror movies, and I thought of your show when I did it.
Oh, great. Thank you again so much.
Awesome, man. Hey, you are, you were an inspiration to me, and I really love the book. I wish you all the luck in the future, and the next project you have, I definitely want to have you come back on the show.
Oh, thanks a lot. Please invite me. I'd love to do it.
Awesome. Thank you, Mike, so much, and you have a good night.
Take care, man.
Bye. And that was Mike Mayo from the Movie Lounge and the author of the Fright Fest book, and we'll be back with the Radio Horror in just a few moments.